So let me quickly walk you through the Zoho Desk to SimPRO extension developed by SyncEzy. So this is a simple extension that's developed for the purpose of transferring your tickets to a quote in SimPRO or a job in SimPRO. So you have to install this from the Zoho Marketplace, and once you do that, you'll be prompted with a few settings. You'll just have to authorize which departments can see it and authorize which profiles can see it. You authorize your SimPRO account as well as authorizing your Zoho account. The next is the configuration, which we have a documented guide for. It's just a bunch of things from SimPRO and how you want to set it up. So we do have that help document for this, and you can always reach out to support at SyncEzy to get more details about this. So let me demonstrate about how this works. So basically what you want to do is take the email address of the customer that has sent you a Zoho Desk ticket, and you look through your SimPRO database, and then we can connect that customer and any site along with that customer. So now a quote or a job has a customer, and a site as a default has the mandatory fields. So if you don't have a site, we have a setting called default site ID. So default site is just basically a site that will link in the event that a customer doesn't have a site under them. So in our case, we have 2405, which is I've just put as a default test site, and that's what will happen. And also we have another feature where in the event that we cannot find the email from SimPRO in our customer database, we'll actually create the customer for you. Okay, so let's give you an example of how this works. So I'm currently in a ticket. Let me just refresh the screen. So I'm currently in a ticket, and I don't have support team at SyncEzy.com as a customer in SimPRO. So now, if you can see on the right hand side, there's an extension. Basically, you can just directly create a quote or create a job, and you also have the option to put a due date. So in this case, I'll put a due date as 18th, and I'm going to create a quote now. It says creating customer in SimPRO here. It's been created now. It's creating the code. Okay, so now I press OK and I go here. And once I open this, I'll see the newly created customer. And since this is the newly created customer, I have the default site I was talking about earlier. Okay, so there's a due date and there's also the description, so we don't carry too much information. Just the customer and the site, the description from your ticket. And the due date's necessary. Okay, so now what I can do is I can also convert a quote to a job. So when I create a job now, and if there's an existing quote, it'll also attempt to convert that quote into a job. So I'm going to click on create job, and you can see it saying processing converted quote to job, and it's being created. Okay, so now let me open both the site and the job just to verify. So as you can see over here, it's written converted to job number 1344, right? That's the job number. And you can see in the job itself, it's converted quote number 1401 to a job. So once this happens, you create a quote or create a job, it actually creates a quote number and the job number here in the field. And if you want to clear this out, what you can do is you can just delete this, click on save, just reload the extension on the top right, and this entire queue gets cleared. Okay, so I also have the option to create a job directly. The only requirement here is that I should not have an existing quote linked. So it works basically pretty much the same way. It'll just look for the customer in the site. So if there's no site, it will link a default site. I also have the option to link the quote directly. Okay, so let's link back the 1401. So instead of creating a new quote, let's say I want to associate an existing quote. So what I'll do is I'll just type 1401 here. And if I want to link the job, I just type 1344. So these are the ones we've created. Okay, and I click on save, and you can see that it's processing and it has been linked. Okay. And it's the same thing here in the job as well. Okay, I'm going to quickly just open this. This is a converted quote. Yep, there it is. Let's have a look. And what happens is that if I do that, it'll also link the ticket ID. So this will happen when I link an existing code or create a new quote. Okay, so let me just show you an example of how it works for a customer with an existing site. Okay, I'm going to reload this page. All right, so the same thing. So what's going on now is I'm going to search email at email.com. It'll search email at email.com in Zoho, and it'll look for existing sites. And if not, it'll link a default site. So let's give this quote a due date of the 26th. And let me create the quote. And as you can see, the quote has been successfully created. So now you can see this is the quote that is in the customer that I had found. This is the Oz government one, and this is the site that I was already inside the customer. So let me just go into that and show you. Yep, under there was Parliament House. Okay, so it basically just creates a quote and creates a job with a description the customer will search using the email we found. A site under that customer, and that was linked. The due date was updated to the 26th, then the ticket ID was updated here. So that's it. That's how it works for existing customers. Now for my final example, I'm going to demonstrate how multi-company works in case you have multi-company build within SimPRO. So this is how the extension would look in the event that you configure multi-company. The configurations are done here, the default site ID in the company. So basically what I'm doing is that I point my extension. It'll let you know that yes, I have a multi-company. I need to enter the default sites of all the companies I'm linking. And I also need to put the company ID from SimPRO as well as the company name. The company ID has to be fixed, but the name you can put whatever you want. Okay, so now we have more information about this in our guide, like I mentioned before. So in case you need more help, the guide does a bit better job at explaining it. So now what I'm going to do is I have a multi-company here. So I'm going to click, so I'm going to choose Zoho SimPRO or Zoho Dev. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to choose Zoho Dev. As this is my company that I'm choosing, I'm going to put a due date of the 19th. And for the multi-company, I'm just going to click Create Quote. And it's been successfully created now. So once I go there, this has been associated with the default site. And it's the same thing with the ticket ID, the due date, the customer, and the site. And it's gone into the second SimPRO company, that Zoho underscore dev. And so similarly, I can always choose to go to another company and do that as well. So this depends on your configuration. You can always send it to whichever company that you need to in SimPRO. So this would only be relevant if you don't have shared customers. If you have shared customers in SimPRO, this might not be that useful, but it'll help you to segregate your quotes into different companies, segregate your quotes and jobs into different companies if you wish. And that's about it. I can do the same thing and can come and just convert the job and can convert or create a job directly, and I can choose the company. And from here, I can't convert the job. I can convert a quote from one company to another company, but it won't allow that. And in the event there's any errors from SimPRO, it'll display in this box. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, we have a guide for this configuration if you need some assistance. Like I said, this is just the default site ID. This is just the URL from the site from SimPRO, which is the right one before the .simprosuite.com. And these are your multi-company configurations. And the same thing here with the company ID and the company name. This is from the simple API settings. And in this section, you can choose for the project type to be either a service or a project. And then you can also choose for the default customer type to be companies or be an individual. So that's the end of my walkthrough of the Zoho Desk to SimPRO extension. If you've got any other questions, I'd recommend jumping into that user guide to help you get set up. Otherwise, get in contact with us.